Everybody, JC here from Toy News International, and today I'm throwing together a video just because I want to give you some updates about DC Collectibles and some news announcements from San Diego Comic-Con, plus just to give you a look at some of the figures that were on display there. So first, I just wanted to talk about the new DC Icons Justice League Rebirth 7-pack that was solicited this month, earlier this week actually. And we got some updated images, so the figures were on display at San Diego Comic-Con. But main thing I just wanted to note about these is that these are actually replacing the New 52 set that was solicited a while back, a month or so ago. So we're not going to be getting New 52 icons, we're going to be getting the Rebirth, the more modern Rebirth versions. So these are due out in March, and the MSRP on these are $100, but I believe retailers are actually taking pre-orders for around the neighborhood of $85 right now. So I know like Big Bad Toy Store has this set up for pre-order for $85. And so the set includes Rebirth versions of Aquaman, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Superman, The Flash, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So other new icons, 6-inch icons that were announced for this week, and some were on display at Comic-Con, some were not, some we just got press images for, but that were announced were, so the Batgirl on motorcycle, that was actually on display. That's not newly announced. We heard about that back during Toy Fair, but that's going to be released in November and cost around $55. So that's the DC Icons Batgirl with motorcycle. And then other icons that were announced, we're going to be getting a new Deadshot, a classic Deadshot, and that one's going to be released, it's set to be released in May. We're going to be getting a new 52 Shazam, that again is going to be set for release in May. And then we're going to be getting Sinestro with the yellow outfit, and again that's got a May release date. Nightwing, we're getting a new Nightwing figure, and that one is going to be released in May. And then Catwoman wearing a costume from the 90s, that's going to be released in June of 2017. We're going to be getting a Demon figure. This one's really cool. Unfortunately, it wasn't on display, but it looks really cool, and that's going to be released in June of 2017. And then also there's going to be a 2-pack coming with a classic Beetle and Booster Gold, and that has got an MSRP of $55. Big Bad Toy Store has it up for pre-order for $50. And that set is going to be released in May of 2017. And when we asked them why we were seeing so many delays with the icon figures, they basically told us that it was due to they had been switching factories, looking for better factories to give better quality control. You're probably aware about, a year or so ago where there was some serious quality control issues with the joints on their figures, and so they switched factories and have been looking for more, basically trying to balance cost-effective factories and that will give us good quality product. And so that's kind of caused a bit of a delay with some of the figures. And honestly, if it means in the end we're getting better quality figures, then I'm all for that. Now I want to switch to a different line, a new line that they announced this week, and it's basically, you may be familiar with their statue line of DC Bombshells, and they're shrinking those down now to action figures. These are going to be, it looks like, about the same scale as the icon figures. And so the first wave is going to include DC Bombshells of Wonder Woman, Batwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn. And this wave of figures is due out in April of next year. So the next line I want to talk about is the DC TV line from DC Collectibles, and we saw these announced earlier in the week, and some of them were on display at Comic-Con. So we got new looks at the Firestorm figure, Hawkgirl, Atom, Zoom, and then the upcoming Flash and Arrow 2-pack. So just to give you some release dates, so the Firestorm figure is going to be released in February of 2017, as is the Hawkgirl from Legends of Tomorrow, both Firestorm and Hawkgirl from Legends of Tomorrow. And then we're going to get the Zoom figure from the Flash TV series. That's also going to be released in February of 2017. The 2-pack with Arrow and Flash, and I really like the Arrow figure. This is probably going to be my favorite Arrow figure to date in this line. And that one is going to be released, that 2-pack is going to be released in December of this year, so at the very end of the year. Vixen, which was not on display, is going to be released in June of 2017. Constantine, which was announced but not on display, is going to be released in June of 2017. I don't have a release date for the Atom figure. I'm not sure when that one's going to be released. The Martian Manhunter from Supergirl, which was not on display, will be released in June. And then Supergirl herself, which was also not on display, will be released in June. Now the Supergirl, we did ask them about the face sculpt on Supergirl because a lot of you, didn't really like what we saw on the prototype, including myself. I didn't like it. Doesn't look anything like the actress. So we did ask them about that, and they do tell us that that's a prototype. They're continuing to try and improve it, working with the actress and her people to get, so definitely look for that figure to improve before it's finally released next June. And it's almost a year away, so they've got plenty of time to work on it. And then moving from TV series to movies, we're getting a look at the Dawn of Justice Batman figure. That's due out in May. The Dawn of Justice Aquaman figure, that's due out in August. We're getting Captain Boomerang from the Suicide Squad movie. That's due out in September. Killer Croc, that's also due out in September. Katana from Suicide Squad is due out in August. Nightmare Batman is also due out in August from the Dawn of Justice movie. We're getting Armored Batman. That's due out in November of 2017. Superman from Dawn of Justice is also due out in December of 2017. Then we're getting a General Zod, which will from Man of Steel, which will be released in September, and Fiora, which was also from Man of Steel, which will also be out in September. So those are definitely a bit of ways, but just wanted to give you an update on those. And last but not least, I want to talk about the animated series line from DC Collectibles. So the big news kind of this week is that they're expanding the line, and we're going to be seeing our first figures based on the Superman animated series. It's going to be a 2-pack with Superman and Lois Lane, and it's due out in July of 2017. And it's going to cost in the neighborhood of $50, which isn't too bad when you consider the price individually is about $20, $25. And also they told us that we probably, they didn't 100% say, but I think we're going to start seeing figures based on the Justice League cartoon. Probably we might get our first look at those at Toy Fair next February. So for those of you who have been waiting for Justice League JLU figures, they are almost definitely coming. And for Batman the Animated Series, and these we've mostly seen before, we're going to be getting the New Adventures Catwoman, and that's due out in March. We're getting a Batman Animated Series Batman Expression Pack set. So this is new. It's pretty cool. It's a Batman figure, but it comes with multiple capes, multiple head sculpts, including an unmasked head, multiple hands, and some weapons. So I like the idea of this. Granted, we already have the figure itself, but still it's a pretty cool idea. This is going to be due out in March and going to cost around $35 or $40. We're getting a New Adventures Riddler figure. That's coming out in March. We're getting Bullock. That's due out at the end of the year in December. We're getting Talia, that's also due out in December, and the Ventriloquist with Scarface, which is also due out in December. The Batwing, the 6-inch scale Batwing for the animated series is still coming. That's due out in November, as is the 2-pack with the Batman and Robin with soft goods cape and the light-up bat single, and that's also due out in November. And then finally, the Batman Beyond 3-pack, which is due out in February. And then real quick, a couple of items that were shown to us at a media event this week that we weren't allowed to take pictures of. We're going to be getting a Batman Animated Series Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy figures. And then for DC Icons, we're going to be getting a Green Lantern Jessica Cruz, an Absolute Zero Captain Cold, and a DC Rebirth Super Sons 2-pack. Okay, so that's it. Now, most of these are up for pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store. I'll have a link to them in the video description below. Also, if you haven't, be sure to check out the websites for all the complete coverage of San Diego Comic-Con. We have high-res images of most of these figures up there. So, again, be sure to check the sites. News will continue to go up throughout today and tomorrow. The convention ends tomorrow. But tonight, the big news is the Marvel panel. We'll be seeing a number of new Marvel Legend reveals this evening. That's 4 o'clock Pacific time, so if you're a Marvel fan, be sure to check back for that. Okay, guys, until next time, I'll catch you later.